Whether we're talking about a filter in front of your lens or the image editor on your computer, there are many places in the image production process where you can change how your image is rendered. Somewhere in the middle of that is your camera, and if you're a JPEG shooter, the camera is the only place where those adjustments have access to the full sensor data. Picture styles are Canon's solution to this problem. They provide users with control over how color, contrast, sharpening, and a whole host of other things are controlled, rendered, and modified in both pictures and videos. So with this video, I am wrapping up my series looking at Canon picture styles on their cameras. And to do that, we are going to take a look at the last bastion of picture styles, creating a custom picture style that gives you complete control over how your image will be rendered. And ultimately, we'll also be talking about how to get that on your camera so that you can use it. Now, this process is a big step beyond what you can do in the camera with the in-camera adjustments, and gives you access to the fundamental color adjustments that picture styles are capable of making. So why go through all the trouble? Well, part of the point of a picture style is to be able to emphasize or de-emphasize and control how your images are rendered, what colors get saturated and aren't. And we see this to a certain extent in the stock picture styles, so how they could emphasize skin tones or de-emphasize skin tones or sky colors or whatnot. Well, Canon, of course, doesn't provide every possible option. You might want to step something up a notch compared to what they do, or alternatively create a picture style that has a very specific look that emulates, say, your favorite film emulsion, or just a style or look that you really like. Now, you can do things, of course, like make adjustments to contrast, but these kind of fundamental adjustments are not something you can do in the camera. You have to make your own picture style for it. So how do we create a custom picture style then? Well, as I keep saying, we can't do it in camera. Instead, we have to jump over to our computers and download and use Canon's Picture Style Editor software. The software is available for both Mac OS and Windows, and you can download it from your regional Canon's website for the support page for the camera that you have or are using. Now, you don't need to use that specific version for cameras as long as you have the right picture style format for the camera in question. Now, I should point out before I go any further, I am not an expert at creating picture styles. As a raw shooter, I don't really use picture styles at all, and certainly not to the extent that it's possible in what I'm going to be talking about here. In fact, I've never actually even created a custom picture style at any point in the past. I've just never needed to. So while I will be looking and talking you through the process and showing you the software and so forth, I unfortunately can't offer you any tips on the best way to go about doing this for your own images. So once you've downloaded and installed the Picture Style Editor and brought it up, you'll be presented with this screen, the Picture Style Editor's main window. It'll say on it, drop images here, and there will be some buttons along the bottom that give you the ability to split screen before and after states, so you can see how your picture style is adjusting or affecting the image, as well as control the magnification, so you want to zoom in if you're setting sharpening, for example. And finally, it will tell you what color space that it is set to work in. Now, you can change both the working and display color spaces through the program's preference window, File or Edit Preferences, and the shortcut to bring it up is Control or Command comma on Mac or Windows or Mac OS. Now, when you drop an image on the Picture Style Editor, it will then pop up a small dialog that tells you the basic process that you should use, of which Canon recommends doing basic adjustments first, then doing the 6 color axes adjustments, and then finally the specific color adjustments if you need to make them. Now, we'll talk about all of these in a minute. Now, these adjustments are made using the tool palette, which will also have appeared after you dropped an image into the editor. Now, at the top of the tool palette are tabs or buttons or whatever you want to call them for the basic 6-color axis and specific color adjustment settings. And then next to it is shortcut buttons for loading a picture style you've previously created and saving a picture style that you are working on. Moving down the basic page from there, you'll have a list of the default Canon picture styles, and these are what you use as a base point for starting your own. Below that are controls for sharpening, contrast, saturation, and color tone. Basically, all of the settings that you see in the details page when you're in the camera or in Digital Photo Professional, here's where you're going to set them. Now, finally, at the bottom of the page is a tone curve, similar to what you'd be used to from Photoshop or Lightroom. And you can use this to make an overall adjustment to the tone curve that this style applies to your image. So this is the first of many settings that is not replicated in camera. Now, once you've made all the basic adjustments to your picture style that you would like to make, our next step is to click the 6-color axis button at the top of the tool palette and move on to this process. This takes you to a second page where you will have broad control over the saturation and hue of the 6-color axes. Those are red, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and magenta. Here you can change the width of the axis so you can be more specific or less specific, although the range is somewhat limited. But you can, for example, make the red axes adjust more or fewer colors in the red, orange, and red magenta range, depending on how you want it to affect things. Then for each range, you can change the hue, saturation, and luminance to suit your needs. So this will make it shift the hue, increase or decrease the saturation, or make it lighter or darker based on the color that you're working with. So for example, you could increase the saturation of blues and reds to create a profile that does something somewhat akin to Canon's landscape profile, but maybe for more saturated sunset or sunrise images. Now, once you've done all of the 6-color axis adjustments that you need to get your profile where you want it, we move on to the specific color page. Now, the specific color page allows you to use the eyedropper tool to pick a specific color from the image that you've loaded into the editor, and then make specific adjustments to that color to shift its hue, contrast, and saturation. Or hue, you get it. You can also make adjustments to a specific color's tone curve. Though I have to admit, I don't quite understand all of the details of what adjusting the tone curve here does ultimately to your image, because we're working with a specific color, but then we're adjusting a tone curve which covers an entire range of luminance values for that color. Now, you can also, while making specific color adjustments, specify the color that you want using either an RGB, a hue, saturation, or luminance, or HSL, or lab color value, if you happen to know what the specific color should be in the color space you're selecting. So, for example, the way you would use this is if you have something like a color check card or some other reference material, and you know the exact values that each swatch in that reference should be, you can use the eyedropper to pick the swatch, then adjust it to match the exact value that it should be. Now, once you're done and you've made all of the changes you want, there is a File Save icon at the top of the tool palette. Or, of course, you could go File Save or hit Control or Command S to save the picture style. Now, when the Save dialog pops up, you'll be prompted to give your picture style file a name. So for here, I'm going to call mine test.pf3. There are two formats to the picture style files, PF2 and PF3. PF3 is what you're going to use on any of the EOS R series mirrorless cameras. PF2 format files, I believe, are for older DSLRs, that at least before the 5D Mark IV, if not older than that. You will also need to add a caption to your file, and this will prompt you here. And in fact, it will not let you out of this page if you don't do this. The caption is the name that's displayed when you go in camera to select the style, or when you go to select it in Digital Photo Professional. When done, just click save and the picture style will be saved to disk and you can use it either in DPP or we can upload it to our camera. Now that we have a custom picture style, the next order of business is getting that on our camera so we can actually take pictures that use it. Now, to do this, we will need to connect to the camera with the EOS utility app from our computer. And you can do this over USB or Wi-Fi. Either way works, though in my experience, USB is both faster and a little bit more reliable. It's certainly easier to get set up if you haven't set the Wi-Fi stuff up yet. If you're shooting with an R5, I have a whole series on Wi-Fi that I will link in the usual places that you can go back and look at. But if you're using an R5 Mark II or an R1, I haven't gotten to that yet. It is on my to-do list. Now, once your camera is connected to the EOS, to your computer, start the EOS utility. Now, depending on how you've set things up, assuming you've done this before, the EOS utility may open directly into the shooting and camera control mode where you can change exposure settings and cause the shutter release to trip, or it may open up to the main window. We need to be at the main window. So if your computer is set up to open into the camera control mode, down at the bottom of the window that has all the control settings, there's a button that says Main Window. Click that. Now, from the main window, click the Camera Settings entry and then click the Register Picture Style File entry. This will bring up a picture style file registration window, and here you will find 3 tabs. These correspond to user-defined 1, 2, and 3, the 3 user-defined picture styles that are on the camera. You can select any of these to put your picture style or to adjust the picture styles on your camera, but you can also select any of these to upload for this upload process. Now, along that window, you will also find a drop-down with the available picture styles that you can select from. So you could change the picture styles on the camera from here if you want to. Next to the drop-down list is a button with the File Open icon. If we click that, we can then find the picture style that we just created in the picture style editor on our hard drive and then open that. So once we've selected the file and clicked open, it will tell us what the picture style is called. Again, this is the label that we applied, or the caption that we applied in the picture style save value. Now, the picture styles settings will also be displayed here. These are the same settings that you have control over in the camera, so sharpening, etc. Now, at this point, you're done. You've registered and uploaded that picture style to your camera. In fact, if you click OK and go to your camera, you will now find that the picture style that's being defined for use under user-defined 1 is the picture style that you just created. You can, of course, once you've uploaded this picture style, create more picture styles in camera using the other 2 user-defined user-defined entries using it as well. So now that you've uploaded a custom picture style to your camera, suppose you no longer want it on the camera. Maybe you don't like it, or you're done with it, or you've done what you need to do with it. Now, to remove the style from your camera, you have to use the EOS utility again. Like with the uploading process, we go into EOS utility, we go to the main menu, we go to the camera settings setting or entry, then to register picture style file. This time, find your picture style in the drop-down list, and you will see a button there that says delete. Select that. The picture style will be deleted from your camera, and you will no longer have access to it in the user-defined picture style list. So, since this is wrapping up the whole picture style thing, let me conclude this with a couple of thoughts. I'm really torn on picture styles. At a minimum, choosing the right built-in style is really useful for anybody shooting JPEG to get the best picture out of their camera. On the other hand, there are a lot of capabilities in the picture styles that I think in some way are wasted for more advanced users. If anything, I think Canon could at least have done something interesting with the picture styles themselves, beyond just the basic ones they put in camera. For example, it really might have been an interesting thing to have a set of picture styles available through Canon that mimic popular film emulsions, or even old film emulsions, or styles that people might be interested in using. I think at least some users on the more casual side of things maybe would get a kick out of being able to set their cameras to shoot in Kodachrome or Velvia or the generic sounding name that doesn't infringe on a trademark but still produces that kind of look, something like that. Either way, I am really hard pressed to find a really good use case for going and doing all the work to create a custom picture style. More advanced users are more likely going to shoot in RAW, where the in-camera picture style doesn't really matter, and then process things in third-party software like Lightroom or Capture One, which don't use the picture styles at all and can't load a Canon picture style for processing anyway, so it doesn't really matter. That said, I hope you found this useful, or at least interesting. If you did, let me know by hitting that like button. Also, if this kind of thing seems like it might be your kind of thing, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Finally, if you'd like to help and support this channel, you can help us for free by liking this video, sharing it with your friends, and leaving a comment with your experiences. Likewise, you can support us by hitting that thanks button or buying yourself something you've always wanted from one of the affiliate links in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.